It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Hello everyone, thanks for checking out my channel. I hope you enjoy my review of the 1951 film The Thing from Another World. This film is based on a John W. Campbell novella called Who Goes There, which was also the same inspiration for the John Carpenter film, John Carpenter's The Thing, which is one of my favorite films of John Carpenter's, and probably one of my favorite films in general. It's also the name of a remake, which I haven't seen, that came out, I believe, in 2012 or 11, somewhere along there. I've heard it's awful, so I will not be reviewing that. But this was always on my to-watch list. You know, it's produced by Howard Hawks. A lot of people think Howard Hawks actually directed it. The name of the director of the film is Christian Nyby. Don't know much about him, but it's pretty infamous that Howard Hawks made this movie rather than Christian Nyby. Kind of like the Tobey Hooper, Steven Spielberg thing with Poltergeist. Howard Hawks, I haven't seen any of his films, but I'm familiar with some of his work. I know he did Rio Bava and a lot of westerns and classic kind of, you know, comedies and stuff. And, you know, he was a big sort of inspiration for a lot of contemporary directors that came after him and stuff like that. And I know he's a huge influence on John Carpenter, not just because of this work or this film, but, you know, a lot of his work. So getting into this, I'm not a huge fan of classic films. I like a lot of them. I've sat through a few. I actually prefer silent films more. I love Nosferatu, Caligari, you know, a lot of that kind of stuff. But with you know, and I do like Frankenstein. I love the Wolfman, the Mummy, Dracula. This stuff's all really great and entertaining, you know, but I don't find myself wanting to watch that kind of stuff over and over and over again. So it's a little hard, and it's not of my time at all, you know, but I respect that thing, and you know, so I finally got around to mustering up the courage to watch it. I should have watched it without being as tired as I was, so I wasn't following as closely as I would have liked to. But with that being said, I'll get into it. So in this film, a lot of stuff has changed around from the short novella, and of course John Carpenter's film, which is closer to that. Instead of being like just typical research scientists, they're a U.S. you know, Air Force military, and they're not. I don't really remember why they're studying everything in the remake, but but this is like there's sort of an unidentified object that was seen somewhere, so the Air Force comes to Alaska rather than Antarctica. And in this film is similar, where they find a UFO under this, you know, frozen ice. So they get the UFO out, and they have their little shack and everything in their area, their base, where they put a frozen alien that they found in the spaceship, which kind of didn't make sense to me, because I don't know if it was like in a freezer or area where it was cool, but the ice melted, which it's like I don't know why they wouldn't assume that, but it did, and then the alien got loose. And I'm really bad with names. The characters' names in this film are completely changed around from the book and the John Carpenter film, so I'm not very good with the names. or the actors, because they're so old. I know James Arness is the monster. That's right on the box. He was in a lot of Western movies, but I don't know much about actors, characters in this. But so anyway, the alien, you know, gets loose and kills some of these military men one by one and uses their blood to create like pods. So eventually the alien race can take over the world. And one of the key big differences that this movie came up with, rather than the shape-shifting, DNA replicating kind of alien that was originally wrote, and again in the John Carpenter film, this is like a vegetable life form, or a plant life form, a sophisticated plant, you know, life, I guess. Which is like a funny thing, but it does kind of work. And he, you know, ends up, you know, being electrocuted at the end by the military characters. And one of the most infamous things about this film is at the very end when they're like on the, you know, the radio, the CB radio or whatever it's called, going, you know, watch the skies. Very cool. So I know that was a little butchered. Like I said, I had a hard time following it, and I was like falling asleep and everything because I work 40 hours a week, sometimes more. So what I got out of this film is I was impressed with it, especially like the dialogue. Like it wasn't like this really kind of hyped up, super properly executed 50s or, you know, kind of classic dialogue going on there. It was actually kind of interesting and very naturalistic, and you kind of bought it more. I thought the acting was, you know, pretty okay. Again, I'm not super into this era of movies, so like it's kind of hard for me to judge. But it was, from what I could, you know, pay attention to, falling asleep and whatnot, it was pretty good, and I was highly impressed. I paid attention every time the alien was on screen, the monster alien, and I thought that stuff was done really good, actually. Like, it was not something where you saw it like coming a million miles away. They actually did a very good job of using tension and suspense in this movie. This, it was surprisingly good. I'd like to watch it again. I would recommend watching it just for the way it was made. Held my attention enough, and it was quite effective. You know, a lot more effective than I even had imagined. But you know, I highly recommend checking this out if you like the John Carpenter film, or maybe if you like the remake that they did. You know, I know this was short, but it is what it is. So if you would please hit a subscribe, like the video, I'd really appreciate it, and catch you later.